So we've got Kate first up. Kate Dewally is a UEA PhD student coming to the end of her study, and she's done quite a lot of work that she will talk to us about. But I think in particular you're going to be talking about farm clusters, aren't you, Kate? And all the work that you've done through the farm clusters, which are really quite buoyant in Norfolk, thanks to some people in the audience. Thank you, David. So yeah, it's a growing area. It's an area that is from the bottom up, and it's really fantastic for us to listen to what people have said to Kate and how she's interpreted and analysed all that information. So over to you, Kate.
Hello everybody, and welcome to my talk about farm clusters. My name is Kate Dewally, and I'm a PhD student at the University of East Anglia, looking at elms, private nature markets and farm clusters. Before this, I studied an animal science degree at Harper Adams University and worked for a year within the pig industry in Norfolk. I am now applying my experiences within the sector to researching farm clusters, as I believe that they have the potential to achieve great social, financial and environmental outcomes for farmers. It's a pleasure to be able to present my work to some familiar faces and new people. Farm clusters are providing exciting opportunities within the agricultural sector, and as a result are becoming more prominent within the industry. With farmers at the heart of what they do, farm clusters have become a widespread movement, bringing together policy, conservationists and land managers working towards common goals. These groups not only provide environmental outcomes, but aim to improve the business resilience of their land manager members, as successful environmental land management cannot happen without farmers being compensated for the work they have undertaken. Furthermore, if you speak to a farmer cluster member, they will be excited to talk to you about their group's activities, including the social opportunities cluster membership has provided them, be it visiting other farms or going for a pub meal with neighbouring farmers. In fact, the positive impacts of clusters has been frequently reported in Farmers Weekly, such as for their contributions to nature recovery and landscape scale conservation, and their recent feature on the archers reflects the growing public awareness of their role and impact within rural communities. Farm clusters are essential for achieving national and local policy targets through providing opportunities for farmer collaboration. For example, in our region, the local nature recovery strategy for Norfolk and Suffolk mentions that land managers could engage in a wide range of environmental activities, including woodland or wetland creation, which could occur across the boundaries of multiple farms. Also, national schemes such as the Landscape Recovery Scheme has been encouraging farmer collaboration since 2022 and has so far funded over 50 landscape scale projects, showing that there is an appetite within the farming community to work together to provide wide-scale environmental benefits. Both the local and national approaches are founded in the concept of creating bigger, better and more joined up habitats, which would not be possible without effective collaboration with methods between farmers, such as those that farm clusters are achieving through bringing people together and to share knowledge and coordinated action. So where did this all begin? Farm clusters began with the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust, helping to establish the groundbreaking farmer-led Marlborough Downs Nature Improvement Areas project in 2012. After this and a Natural England pilot in 2014, public funding for group facilitation became available in 2015, which is when the concept started to become a lot more widespread. Since 2015, the industry may have suffered significant challenges, but there have been increasing financial opportunities for individual farmers and farm clusters to get involved in environmental land management, such as through the environmental land management schemes and private nature markets, such as biodiversity net gain. There is already evidence of farm clusters using these mechanisms to connect their farmland, and some clusters have even gone as far as creating community interest companies. In fact, my first piece of PhD research explored the key factors influencing the uptake of elms and private markets, found that collaboration, particularly through the membership of a farm cluster, is becoming increasingly essential for access to these schemes and markets, as participating in a group provides support and de-risks the process of being involved. Group membership was also found to be providing social outcomes by enabling knowledge exchange between their members and reducing isolation in agriculture. The next section of the talk will discuss my recent work on farm clusters. I must ask for you not to take photographs of the next slides, but I will be more than happy to share a copy of my work once it has been published. The findings of my previous work, alongside the evident industry excitement, has led me to continue my PhD research to focus on farm clusters. From a research perspective, there is limited work recording the outcomes of these groups, and I believe that work in this area could contribute to an increased awareness about the benefits of clusters and also highlight to policymakers and the organisations funding them the ways in which they could be further supported to achieve maximum outcomes. Also, from my experiences working in the sector, I know how important it is for farmers to have the opportunity to share knowledge and meet with their neighbours. Starting research on farm clusters was challenging at first because there's not a centralised and up-to-date database covering all the farm clusters in England. So that is where I started. To ensure that I could accurately capture the perspectives of the wide range of different groups in England, I compiled my own database. This process involved collating data from a wide range of online sources and publicly available lists, and then using these to generate point-based estimates of cluster locations. After this, I used publicly available contact details for cluster leaders to validate and refine the information gathered, ensuring that the information I collected about the clusters was as up-to-date as possible. I collected the information I could, including estimates of membership number and whether the groups are still running or not. The database I developed underpins the second and third stages of my PhD research. The final stage of my PhD will involve using mapping techniques and the point-based estimates of the cluster locations. But today I will focus on the work I've been doing this year, which involves running focus groups and interviews with farm cluster facilitators or lead farmers. Whilst having the database validated by the facilitators, I invited them to take part in focus groups to share their experiences and perspectives of running a farm cluster. The willingness to share information just shows the dedication and enthusiasm that the facilitators had about their clusters. As you will know, if you know a farm cluster facilitator, they are busy people. Despite this, I managed to organise 4 focus groups and 2 individual interviews with facilitators across England. Where I could, I tried to split the focus group discussions by region so that I can compare the outcomes of clusters spatially. To guide the discussions, I developed a focus group framework based off key themes identified by Pretty and Ward as influencing the evolution of natural capital groups, which enabled us to discuss a wide range of topics. Each focus group or interview lasted between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, with it even sometimes being difficult to keep the discussions to the meeting length as the facilitators had so much to say. The sessions were not only valuable to me from a research perspective, but also were for the facilitators who appreciated the opportunity to network and share experiences, which is something they don't get to do very often. During the process, I have also made some great connections and ended up meeting some of my participants at Groundswell to catch up on how their clusters were doing. For the rest of my talk, I will share some of the preliminary findings from the focus groups, which includes quotes from the group facilitators. After this, I will share a few case studies showcasing the inspiring initiatives currently taking place within farm clusters in Norfolk. Firstly, I wanted to know how farm cluster membership has influenced perceptions of changes and the direction of the agricultural industry. As you will all know, the sector has recently faced uncertain times, with quick and rapid policy changes making it hard for land managers to make secure decisions about the future direction of their businesses. However, my focus group discussions did find that being a member of a farm cluster can help farmers adapt to changes in the industry, as group members get increased advice through their facilitators and guest speakers. Membership might also increase the profitability of its individual members due to greater access to and knowledge of funding pots spanning from the SFI through to landscape recovery schemes and private nature markets. Also, being able to learn from your neighbouring farmers through attending cluster meetings can help to spread innovative technologies and production methods, as well as being able to share experiences with others who are sharing the same business risks and facing similar challenges. Second, I wanted to know how farmers view the role of farm clusters and their own roles within the group. Bringing their passion, trusted facilitators are at the core of a functioning cluster group and give busy farmers the opportunity to attend meetings and events through submitting funding applications and generating ideas about what the group could talk about. Many of the facilitators I spoke to had long-standing connections within their own farming communities and often worked as farmers themselves or were closely tied to agriculture in their role as an advisor or within an ENGO. These established roles and relationships are essential for a successful cluster, as facilitators are familiar with the local challenges that farmers are facing and are sometimes going through the same challenges themselves. The facilitators highlighted the importance of farmers being at the heart of the groups and often ensured that farmer decision-making was incorporated into the structure of the group, such as through a farmer steering committee. Having been to a couple of cluster meetings myself as a speaker, it really is like a conversation between farmers on a topic rather than being fully led by a facilitator who is there to lead the conversation where required, but also make sure that there is a comfortable venue with refreshments. I'm sure any cluster members in the audience will agree that these comforts give their group a friendly atmosphere and encourages more flowing conversations. Because of these trusted relationships that are formed, as groups develop, the participation and engagement have been found to increase. This highlights the importance of having long-term funding for facilitators, allowing trust to build, which could eventually lead to the groups taking on ambitious long-term environmental projects. Third, I wanted to know how well farm clusters are linking with each other, external organisations and the government. Farm clusters are active not only in their own rural communities, but are engaged at a local and national decision-making level. The engagement level always depended on what the farmers were comfortable with, but in several cases, farm clusters are collaborating with their neighbouring groups, further increasing the social connections and knowledge sharing that could happen within a single meeting. This has future potential to further increase the scale of environmental projects conducted in any given area. Group facilitators within regions are also connecting to share experiences and challenges they are facing, which means that groups can share opportunities such as speakers and farm visits, which shares resources and overall makes groups easier and cheaper to run. The facilitators provided connections to local government, with some groups feeding up this information at this level, such as through their local nature recovery strategies. Some groups also contributed to national level consultations, such as the Land Use Framework consultation. However, facilitators did comment that upward communication channels can be really difficult to navigate as both a farmer and facilitator, and that these could be improved to ensure the views of farmers are reaching those who need to hear them. Another trend was that some clusters are becoming increasingly linked with the private sector in response to the uncertainty around public funding. Facilitators commented that unlike many of the farmer members, they have the time, capacity and networks to connect the group and individual members to opportunities and contacts beyond the public sector, which may ensure the longevity of cluster groups, but also improve farm business resilience of its individual land manager members. Fourth, I wanted to know how farm clusters are applying ecological principles and their other benefits. As well as having farmers at the heart of the group, the other essential component is the environment, with all the facilitators I spoke to having ecological principles embedded in the meetings or actions the groups were taking. The priorities of the groups was often influenced by the structure of the facilitation funding, but also reflected the environmental passion of the group members themselves, who have spent every day working in their landscape. A common talking point in the focus groups was the Lawton principle of connecting up farms. Achieving this on a cluster level was not always linked to landscape recovery, but in fact, the groups have even been using the sustainable farming incentives strategically to link up members' land, with these individual agreements underpinning funding for activities such as hedgerow linking over the farm boundary. Facilitators expressed an interest in mapping and baselining their farms, as they believe this could help communicate the fantastic work of their farmers and prepare them to access emergent private markets. Some groups had the funding to do this, but unfortunately many groups did not have the resources, meaning that future policies could be strengthened to enable groups to collect more data about the work they are doing. I recently visited a farm cluster in the southeast, with some key members giving me a tour of their wetland area that they had created together. The farmers in this group spoke passionately about how being in a cluster has enabled them to improve the water quality of their local river, which not only benefits biodiversity, but is essential for their production methods and has huge recreational benefits for the local community. Also mentioned in this tour and the focus groups was the need to keep farmers farming the land, and this should remain central to the farmer's role and identity. Many facilitators commented that the environmental activities of the cluster often complemented food production and enhanced the business model of their members, whilst maintaining the identity of the farmer and food security. Across all focus groups, the most significant outcome discussed were the social benefits of cluster participation, and this often outweighed any environmental or financial outcomes. These groups are becoming central to farming communities because of the support they are providing their members. The types of meeting might vary, some may be farm walks and others pub meals, but many facilitators commented that having the opportunity to form friendships, exchange experiences, and talk openly were the key reasons for their groups attending meetings. These social benefits are vital for morale and well-being in the industry, especially at a time of considerable uncertainty. These benefits go beyond those felt by farmers. Some clusters have even been engaging with their local communities and to the wider public through using citizen scientists or providing farm tours, meaning that clusters are giving farmers the opportunity to increase public engagement with farming with the support of their friends. The citizen science data collected for some clusters has not only had a financial benefit to the group, but contributes to the cluster's overall environmental impact, whilst increasing the public's exposure to farmland. Finally, I wanted to know what factors influence the longevity of farm clusters and how they are developing over time. Although funding was seen to streamline the overarching vision for farm clusters through connecting landscapes and putting farmers at the heart of broader conservation efforts, at any given landscape, priorities might differ and relies on the knowledge of local farmers and conservationists. As mentioned earlier in the talk, we need to make sure we sustain local level groups, as increased trust and relationships will lead to greater environmental benefits. Networking between clusters, as shown on the map, can also demonstrate a wide level of landscape level connectivity. However, these groups cannot carry on without funding. This was a key concern raised by the facilitators in my focus groups, who commented that the unstable nature of funding at the moment and that this threatens the longevity of their groups. From a policy standpoint, having funding for farm clusters is a no-brainer, as it not only leads to environmental success, but has played a huge role in strengthening the relationships between farmers. From the initial analysis of my focus groups, I have made some key conclusions about the outcomes of farm clusters and how we can keep them going. It is clear that the benefits of these groups are far-reaching, including providing financial benefits to their members through the access of funding or through the sharing of innovative ideas. The social value of these groups is priceless. Clusters are providing a space for making trusted connections, knowledge exchange, and have certainly strengthened their rural communities. As well as this, these groups are developing significant environmental benefits and would in fact like to do more, such as having funding to baseline and create maps of what they do. This just speaks into the pride that cluster groups have in their activities. Central to the findings of my study were the importance of facilitators, as they reduce the administrative burden of running a group and act as an intermediary between cluster members and external parties. This means that certainty and increased variety of funding is essential to keep these groups going. Flag advisor Marta Gibbons has kindly provided this slide about the farm cluster she manages in the Northern Broads. This cluster is newly formed and has already grown from 23 members to 30 members. The group is doing some fantastic work in the Broads landscape. Family farming and food production are at the core values of this cluster, and they strongly believe that these values can align with the goals of net zero, biodiversity, and water management. Being facilitated through FWAG Norfolk has allowed the group to collaborate with other organisations, including the Norfolk Wildlife Trust and Broads Authority. Overall, the group look forward to the years ahead and hope to further benefit from the training and social opportunity that being a member brings. If you would like to find out more about the group, please contact Marta, and I'm sure she would be happy to answer any questions. Bringing all the cluster groups in Norfolk and Suffolk together, the Clustered Landscape Connect website is now live. This is a fantastic resource, and I would strongly recommend visiting the website for anyone who is interested in farming, conservation, or cluster groups in the region. On the website, you can see a map of all the current clusters in Norfolk and Suffolk, as well as landscape recovery projects. This map gives a brilliant visual image of the connectivity that's already happening in the region, and we can also see areas in which more could be done. And this could be through setting up a new cluster group or joining an existing one. If you're interested in any group on the site, you will find contact details as well as information. Alternatively, feel free to contact David or Sarah, who would be more than happy to point you in the direction and tell you about the work going on your doorstep. Thank you for listening. I would also like to thank my participants for participating in the focus groups and to my collaborators for providing photographs and slides of the work of local clusters in Norfolk. Feel free to grab me today or contact me on LinkedIn or email if you have any further questions.